Kremlin yesterday warning that Western nations supplying Ukraine with weapons will face retaliation. Also, that Moscow could provide long-range weapons to its allies to hit Western targets in response. So the threats are many coming from Putin. He also would not rule out using nuclear weapons.
Russian President Vladimir Putin warns again that Russia is considering sending weapons to the adversaries of the United States. And this is in response to the U.S. providing Ukraine with missiles to strike Russia. Russia now saying, if you are doing that, why can't we do the same and send it to your enemies? Now, I shared with you live yesterday that we had received a list of various nations of which Russia is considering doing this. Some of the ones that were mentioned was Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea, Yemen, Iran, Serbia, Nicaragua, and Mexico. And in addition to that, we're hearing that Belarus is running alongside of Russia the second stage of tactical nuclear weapons drills in response to the Western provocation. Tactical nuclear weapons include air bombs, warheads for short-range missiles, and artillery munitions as well. So I'm going to be sharing with you the latest video footage and articles coming out on this, getting you caught up as to what has been unfolding with Russia threatening the United States, saying that they're going to be sending weapons, even potentially nuclear weapons, to our enemies and allowing them to do with it what they wish. Now, at this time, I think it's very important for us to stay strong and aware of what is going on. And I've got a video sponsor that's going to be helping us out with that as well later on in the video, though. But let's go ahead and dive right in and get you caught up on the latest so you know exactly what is taking place, as this is not being covered in the mainstream media like it should be. And if you appreciate the updates, do me a quick favor, hit that like button. Just takes a quick second. Subscribe to stay up to date. It's totally free. Why not? And with that being said, though, let's go ahead and get you caught up on the latest that's going on right now with conflict with the U.S., Russia, Ukraine, NATO, and all over the world. But first, I've got a question for you. Do you believe that there's a dark side to the government, that they might be meddling in our lives, including the FDA, who might be trying to control us while simultaneously sending profits to their partners, Big Pharma? Well, there's a supplement called NMN, which boosts the NAD plus in your body. Now, NAD plus keeps the 50 trillion cells in your body full of energy, but the FDA is attempting to change the status of NMN supplements, allowing the pharmaceutical companies to control it. Now, this decision is not based on the safety or efficacy of the supplement, but it is based on cornering the market, taking this away from individuals, and making you pay $20,000 to $30,000 in prescriptions which you are unable to afford unless you've got insurance. Now, every year that you get older, your body has less NAD+, but NMN helps boost and increase it, and the FDA knows it, which is why Big Pharma is asking them to take it away and change the status so that way they can control it. Now, NMN has shown to have numerous health benefits, such as increased energy, weight management, endurance, strength, even anti-aging. It isn't just any supplement, it's a game changer. A recent Harvard study showed NMN helped reduce weight, cholesterol, and even blood pressure in overweight adults. Now, I have NMN available today from Black Forest, and Black Forest is fully stocked with NMN, and they are fighting against the FDA to keep this supplement available. But who knows, there might come a day soon when selling this life-changing supplement is no longer possible. I urge you to check out the link below and try some for yourself, and Black Forest has a special offer. If you purchase in the next 48 hours, you can buy 2, get 1 free.
Then you've got the Kremlin yesterday warning that Western nations supplying Ukraine with weapons to strike Russian territory will face retaliation. Putin was very adamant yesterday, saying earlier in the week also that Moscow could provide long-range weapons to its allies to hit Western targets in response. So the threats are many coming from Putin. He also would not rule out using nuclear weapons. Mary, your reaction?
Yeah, because Putin is trying to deter us, Maria. That's what's going on.
That's called deterrence.
We're not deterring him.
Yeah.
We're not deterring him. You're seeing deterrence in action on the wrong side of the fight. And it's yet another reason why we should have armed Ukraine to the hilt at the beginning, so that it would have been a short and quick victory for Kyiv. Instead, now this war is dragged out. You've had tens of thousands of people killed and maimed and brought across the border, and all kinds of war crimes happening. But more importantly for us, for our interests, which is something that the president rarely talks about, you have the threat of a wider war. And that's really the concern here, is that there could be an accident. Putin could get so emboldened that he decides to go into Moldova, or he starts to make trouble in the Baltics. Our friends and allies in Eastern and Central Europe get this, but where President Biden is today in France, they talk a big game. Macron is, talking very hawkishly, but just like President Biden, that's for the French domestic audience because he's facing a threat from his political right.
Yeah.
So I fear it's a very dangerous time, and it's not a time to play domestic politics. National security shouldn't be a partisan thing. But we can't just speak in these lofty terms about democracy and not back it up with action and give our friends and allies a reason to trust us and to do more themselves, which is ultimately what we want.
Especially during a time when the lines seem to be drawn in terms of the teams on the world stage. You've got China partnering with Russia, partnering with Iran, and the free world on the other side. Mary, talk a bit about China and its role in all of this.
Well, China, of course, is helping Russia prop up its economy. It's part of the reason why our sanctions haven't crushed the Russian economy in any significant way. You've seen China provide military equipment and materiel to Russia. You saw the UK defense minister call that out. Of course, the White House tried to roll that back and say, well, we're not so sure that's going on. Of course, it's going on. You see them help with sanctions evasion. They could be helping North Korea provide and transport certain weapons into Russia. So you're right, Maria. It's not a bilateral issue. It's not a Russia-Ukraine issue. That's not how the world works. We've talked about that before on your program. The world works in concert with each other. And this, as you called it, team, is an anti-free world team, China,
right.
Russia, Iran, North Korea. And we need to rally our allies. And by the way, Maria, that includes some non-democracies, like places like Vietnam, for instance, or Saudi Arabia, where they have values that are very different from ours. And we have to cooperate with them, just as we did back in World War II, to defeat this common enemy. And so that's the work that needs to be done right now at the State Department, the National Security Council.
So there you have it. And we heard that Russia working in concert with China. And you heard the potential threat of those two working together as China is funding and providing additional economic support to Russia. Now, take a look at this article that just came out a couple days ago, but we've seen those updates rolling out. I'm going to be sharing with you more about Russia and Belarus running those drills here in just a second. But this article says that President Vladimir Putin said on Friday that Russia will consider sending weapons to adversaries of Western countries that supply arms to Ukraine, and that is the United States, repeating a warning made days earlier. Now, he didn't specify where such arms might be sent, but I just shared with you a list of some of the countries that they think are being taken into consideration, saying only that they might be states or even other legal entities that face certain pressure, including military pressure from those countries that send weapons to Ukraine and urge it to use it against us, against the Russian territory. He also stressed that Moscow isn't doing it currently. If they supply weapons to combat zones and call for using these weapons against our territory, why don't we have the right to do the same? So Russian President Vladimir Putin saying, let's send weapons, even nuclear weapons, to the enemies of the U.S. But I'm not ready to say that we will be doing it tomorrow either. Earlier, Putin said that the Russian economy is growing despite heavy international sanctions, and that the country has expanded economic ties with countries in Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, as he sought to court investors at the forum. The event has been used by Russia for decades as a showcase for touting the country's development, though Western officials and investors have steered clear of the session since sanctions cut off much of Russia's trade with the Western Europe and the United States and their allies. Putin has heavily controlled his media appearance since sending his forces into Ukraine, but he took questions Wednesday from international journalists, including some from Western countries he has criticized on the sidelines of the forum. At the meeting, Putin warned that Russia could provide long-range weapons to others to strike Western targets in response to NATO allies allowing Ukraine to use their arms to attack Russian territory. He also reaffirmed Moscow's readiness to use nuclear weapons if it sees a threat to its sovereignty. Last year, journalists from countries that Russia regards as unfriendly, including the U.S., UK, and European Union, they were not invited to the forum. In this article coming out today that Russia is working in concert with Belarus to do these tactical nuclear weapons drills. And let's take a look at the latest. It says Russia and its ally Belarus on Tuesday, today, launched a second stage of drills intended to train their troops in tactical nuclear weapons, part of the Kremlin's efforts to discourage the West from ramping up support for Ukraine. In announcing the nuclear maneuvers last month, the Russian Defense Ministry said that they were in response to provocative statements and threats of certain Western officials regarding Russia's federation. The Kremlin has expressed outrage after French President Emmanuel Macron said that he doesn't exclude deploying troops to Ukraine, and the U.S. and some other NATO allies allowed Kiev to use weapons supplied by them for striking targets on the Russian territories. Speaking to reporters on Tuesday, today, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov noted that such drills and maintaining combat readiness are important in view of the hostile decisions and actions by the United States and its allies in Europe and their daily provocation. Now, during the second stage of the drills that begin Tuesday, today, Russian and Belarusian troops, they will undergo joint training in non-strategic nuclear weapons used in combat, the Defense Ministry said. It noted that the exercises are aimed at maintaining readiness of personnel and equipment to ensure the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the alliance of Russia and Belarus. Now, last year, Russia moved some of its tactical nuclear weapons into neighboring Belarus, which also borders Ukraine and NATO members Poland, Latvia, and Lithuania. Belarus authoritarian President Alexander Lukashenko has replied on close ties with Russia and provided his country as a staging ground for the war in Ukraine. Now, tactical nuclear weapons include air bombs, warheads, and short-range missiles and artillery munitions, and are meant for use on the battlefield. Usually, they are less powerful than strategic weapons, massive warheads that arm intercontinental ballistic missiles and are intended to obliterate entire cities. Russian President Vladimir Putin has noted, however, that even Russia's battlefield nuclear weapons are much more powerful than the 2 atomic bombs that the U.S. dropped on Japan back in World War II. So there you have it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Are we going to be entering World War III? Is Russia going to be supplying the enemies of the United States with weaponry, with nuclear weapons potentially, to attack the United States? And when is this all going to be unfolding? We've got elections this year too. Let me know your thoughts. Now, I'll be sure to keep you up to date every step of the way, but in addition to that, be sure to check out this video right here as I covered it in more detail live for you. And also, we've heard those warnings coming out from China about the United States' bad behavior toward nuclear policy as well. Check out these videos right here next to catch the latest on those, and I'll be sure to keep you up to date every step of the way. But that is the latest, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. And again, thank you to today's video sponsor. Be sure to check them out as well. Catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.